So let's go through the ingredients real quick. You're gonna need 1.5 pounds of chicken. You can use boneless, skinless chicken thighs. You can use chicken breasts. You could even use shredded rotisserie chicken. Keep it simple. 2 tablespoons of olive oil or butter, 8 ounces of softened cream cheese, a 10-ounce pack of frozen spinach. I like to use frozen spinach in soups most of the time because sometimes fresh spinach can take on kind of a slimy quality and really brothy soups. So just a matter of personal preference. You can also use fresh. We're going to use a 14-ounce can of quartered artichoke hearts. You want to make sure that's drained. A medium onion. Calls for 4 cloves of garlic, but you know, I like to measure garlic with my heart. We're going to use 4 cups of chicken stock, a cup of heavy whipping cream. We're going to use a cup of shredded mozzarella cheese. The shaved Parmesan is going to be just for a garnish on top. Some red pepper flakes, salt, and pepper. That's everything you need to make this soup. And for the chicken, you can cook it any way you prefer. We're gonna put the chicken into the soup already cooked, so I'm just gonna pop mine into the air fryer. I've just seasoned it with a little bit of salt, pepper, onion, and garlic. You can pan sear it, you can bake it. Any way that you wanna cook it is just fine. Okay, so while the chicken's cooking, I used that time to get all of my ingredients ready. If you are someone who doesn't like cooking or being in the kitchen stresses you out, a lot of times it's probably organizational. I mean, I realize that some people don't like to cook, but if you can practice mise en place, which is just a French term that means everything in its place. So by that, I mean like chopping up your onions, mincing your garlic, measuring out your cheeses, measuring out your liquids, thoroughly reading your recipe so that you are ready to go. You know what you need, you have it ready in the portions you need it. You're gonna have a lot more fun in the kitchen, I promise. The chicken's cooked and it looks beautiful. I'm just gonna cut this up into small bite-sized pieces and we're gonna get to cooking. The chicken's all cut up, had to taste a few pieces, you know, quality assurance, it's delicious. All right, so let's get started. You're just gonna heat a stock pot or a large Dutch oven like this over medium heat. You're gonna add the olive oil or butter, 2 tablespoons olive oil or butter. And then to that, we are going to add the onions and we're gonna add the garlic. And we are just gonna cook those until the onions are translucent and the garlic is fragrant. Just sauteing those. It already smells amazing in here. I'm pretty sure that I would wear onion and garlic as perfume. I mean, people might not want to be around me, but I would do it. All right, so this is what you want the onion to look like. Now we are going to add the spinach. You can put it in frozen, it doesn't matter. It's gonna cook and melt as it cooks. So we're also gonna add a pinch of red pepper flakes and some salt and some pepper. We'll taste it later and see if we want to adjust the seasonings. And then we're just gonna keep cooking it until the spinach has thawed and cooked into the onions and just warmed through. So it's thawing nicely, cooking in with the onions. Steps like this that are pretty passive, you just want to check on it, kind of help the spinach along, but it gives you time to clean as you go. Another reason that people don't like cooking is because they don't like cleaning up afterwards. But the more you can clean as you go, the more you can just sit down and enjoy your meal and not worry about a dirty kitchen. So as I'm thawing this spinach and cooking it with the onions, I'm cleaning everything up from the prior steps and from the prep. Okay, so the spinach is all thawed and cooked in with the onions. Now we're going to add the cream cheese. And we are just going to mix the cream cheese in until it is fully combined and melted into the veggies. We're adding it at this step and not later because if you add cream cheese to a broth, even if it's hot, it's never gonna melt in and fully make a smooth texture. So doing it now, make sure that you have a really smooth and creamy broth without chunks of cream cheese. And it actually melts in really easily. Then we'll deglaze the pan a little bit to get all this good stuff off the side of the pan. This is called fond, and that is where the flavor lives. That's why you see so many recipes call for deglazing a pan, because you don't want to miss out on all that delicious flavor that gets stuck to the bottom of the pan in the process of cooking. All right, so the cream cheese is all mixed into the spinach and the onions, and honestly, right at this point, it just looks like spinach dip. So I'm just gonna hit the pan with a tiny splash of the stock, maybe more than a little tiny splash. And then we're just gonna use the stock to scrape up and mix in all that deliciousness stuck to the pan. All right, now that we got all that off the side, I'm gonna add the rest of the chicken stock. And then we are gonna increase the heat to high and bring it to a boil. So it's just about to come to a boil. You can see the bubbles starting to form around the edges. While I was waiting for it to come up to a boil, I used that time to do some more cleanup. Clean as you go. Okay, now that we brought it to a boil, we're gonna reduce it to low and let it simmer. I'm gonna add the artichoke hearts, the mozzarella cheese, and the Parmesan cheese. And I'm gonna stir those into the sauce. And as we simmer, we're just gonna let those cheeses melt in and become part of the sauce. All right, so I'm gonna let that simmer for about 10 minutes. Again, a good time for cleanup. It's a good time to start prepping anything that you might wanna serve with it. You know, just trying to make it easy on you. All right, so now that that's been simmering for about 10 minutes, we're gonna do the final step, and that is to add the cream. Honestly, you could probably skip the cream because this soup is very rich and creamy already. And I'm gonna add the chicken. This is a pretty thick soup, more like a chowder. So if you wanna thin it out, you can always add more chicken stock. See, it's very, very thick. So now I'm just gonna let it simmer for like 20 or 30 minutes, let all the flavors come together. I'll taste it here in a little bit, see if I wanna add any more salt and pepper. And that's really all there is to it. It's so, so good, especially with like a big hunk of crusty bread. Yum. All right, it's done. Look at that. Rich and creamy spinach and artichoke dip chicken soup.